All right. Hi, everyone. This is Kerim Baran with SolarAcademy. Today, I am with Justin Hammond of Energy Toolbase. Justin, welcome. Good to have you here.
Hey, Kerim, it's nice to be joining you and to be joining your audience.
Yeah, and we are both here in SoCal in the San Diego region, but we're on Zoom, obviously. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about Justin's background and then dive into Energy Toolbase, which has been one of the key players on the software side for resi, commercial, industrial, um, uh, solar plus storage solutions over the past decade plus. And Justin is the new leader for their enterprise services team. But before we go in there, Justin, tell us a little bit about how you ended up with in renewable energy and also with Energy Toolbase.
Sure. So my background is in civil engineering, and I've been a part of the solar and storage industry for, gosh, got in at 2010, so
Wow.
14 years now, all of which has been non-residential. So
Mhm.
designing and developing, projects for both the public and private sector. Um, so a lot of experience responding to RFPs, also a lot of experience sitting at tables with C-level decision makers. And it's interesting. It's pretty neat because I actually got my start in the industry working for a solar and storage contractor based in San Diego. And that's where I met John Gursky, who was the founder of Energy Toolbase. So I had the opportunity to work directly alongside him before he ventured off to start coding Energy Toolbase. So here I am, joining Energy Toolbase last year. It was pretty neat being able to kind of bring things full circle and have the opportunity to work with him again after all these years.
Great. Wow, that's awesome. And for viewers' benefit, Energy Toolbase, I believe, has been around since 2014, 2014-ish, and has really established itself as the go-to platform, software platform for EPCs, installers, developers to calculate their ROI, return on investment calculations, mainly because they had the biggest database and real-time information on hundreds of utilities, rate information on energy or electricity pricing, which is obviously one of the key inputs in calculating the return on investment for these assets. And and along the way, Energy Toolbase has been acquired by a public company, Pason Systems, which has traditionally operated in the oil and energy sector, and has been serving its client base ever since. And so, Justin, you've been around, and you also have used the product, I assume, in your prior positions. So tell us a little bit about that software product that you've used, and then how does that tie into your current enterprise services activities with Energy Toolbase?
Yeah, happy to do so. And it's you touched on the point of the tariffs. For those of us who have been in the industry for a while, remember feeling the pain of having to maintain spreadsheets and track changes in tariffs and the hassle that was. And it was pretty cool because John, as he was going through the beta phase of Energy Toolbase, was able to work with the contractor that I was at to test that product and kind of give us a first look at that product, which was as you know, it quickly became the gold standard within the industry for avoided cost analysis. And you're absolutely right. We're founded back in 2014. So we're turning 10 years old this year. And it was originally founded as that, the software platform for modeling and proposing the economics of solar and storage projects. And so really it was for, that product is now better known as ETB Developer today. It's still our flagship.
Developer. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
still our flagship product. But for the first 5 years of the company, that is just what it was until 2019, when the company was acquired by Pason Systems, as you mentioned. And ultimately, we merged with one of their subsidiaries called Pason Power. And so Pason Systems, as you mentioned, they're a billion-dollar publicly traded company on the Toronto Stock Exchange, energy services and technology company that had taken their core technologies of control system software, data aggregation, data monitoring, and applied that to energy storage, again, through Pason Power. Now, the parent company, Pason Systems, recognized the opportunity there to take the energy management system with Pason Power and merge that with Energy Toolbase's modeling platform to bring to market the ability to model, control, and monitor assets. And so now today we have a suite of products that takes you through every step of a project's life cycle. And so that just allows us to bring more value to the industry. And so again, now in addition to that ETB developer for monitoring, we have our Acumen EMS, intelligent control software. And so it's hardware agnostic, and it just is really making for the most accurate bankable storage investments out there, because now there's no disconnect between what you're modeling and what you can expect to see in the field, because the same dispatch simulation logic that is in Energy Toolbase's developer platform is the same algorithm that's in Acumen that's in the field. And so it just makes for very accurate pro formas. The extent to which we're so comfortable that we're able to issue performance guarantees and compensate you for any disparity in savings there might be. And when it comes to those savings, again, Acumen it's an intelligent.
So you become the underwriter for a third-party EPC built system, and you guarantee the performance of that system.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
I did not know that. That is impressive. Okay.
The Acumen EMS, it's responding to a number of different signals to maximize savings, right? So it's tracking your behavior. It's using AI to learn your behavior. That's right. So it's monitoring the behavior of the system. It's taking into account changes in the usage profile. It's also factoring in signals from changes in your utility rate. And so we have a full-time utility rates team, which is monitoring and updating utility rates, and then feeding that information into our Acumen EMS so that we are constantly optimizing for any changes in the tariff and optimizing to your specific tariff. And then in addition to that, it's also responding to signals related to grid service programs. So it's co-optimizing for all of these to really maximize the return on your investment. And then in keeping with all of this in terms of transparency, accuracy, and just successful deployment of clean energy systems is our ETB monitor solution. And so that's where in real time you're able to view the behavior and performance of your assets. And when it comes to performance, it's not just tracking kilowatts and kilowatt hours. We're looking at the performance from a dollars and cents perspective. Yeah. And so again, the utility rates that are going into Acumen EMS, they're also being applied in Monitor so that we're able to quantify the savings contribution from both the ESS and the PV. And then really just to give you the ability to, at a glance, determine the health of the system and the health of the investment, right? And really focused on that, the bottom line savings value. So that's where we're at today. And we are, about 70 employees strong right now.
Nice. Very nice. How does enterprise services team tie into these various different products that you talked about? I assume those um, products you talked about, the traditional ETB, original SaaS product, and the EMS or the management system software, and the Acumen product. These are sold as software modules, if I'm assuming correctly. Is that, or is that offer is part of the services offering to be able to use these
Yeah, great question.
services and
So the
software?
monitoring, the modeling controls and monitoring software can all be purchased a la carte. Um, the enterprise services team is kind of its own distinct service, and so we are simply put the consulting arm of Energy Toolbase. And
Oh,
so, over the years, we've definitely provided, consulting services to VIP clients, but we decided last year to formally productize it and make it available to everybody. And so we are working with a lot of corporates, a lot of developers, vendors, financiers, and by extension, working with their clients who are just a very diverse group, right? We're dealing with, anyone from Fortune 500 companies to, mom and pop shops. But happy to help them all alike. And we're doing that through our two main types of engagements, where we've got namely site optimizations and portfolio assessments.
one question before you dive into those types of engagements. Who is your counterpart at these companies, whether it's a Fortune 500 or a mom and pop or a big tech company? Do you deal with usually the CFO organization, like CFO and whatever falls under him or her type of organization, or are you dealing with facilities? Are you dealing, like, I'm just curious,
All of
who
the
is
all of the above, all of the above.
okay?
So it's usually
Yeah,
somebody who's championing the project. Sometimes you're dealing with a committee of people, but yeah,
mhm.
it's a little bit of everything.
Got it. Interesting. Very, very cool. So you were saying there are two types of engagements that you do with your client base. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So we have the site optimization engagements, which are typically where we're looking at a single, campus or a single facility where we've got, a meter or a handful of meters that we're looking at. And, this is it's a fully white labeled on demand design service where we are taking into account, customer guidance, customer, input, and any kind of inputs and assumptions they may have, and then coupling that with our local utility and incentives knowledge to provide a researched, validated, optimized, really series of designs for our clients. And so what we do by default is we always provide a PV design, a hybrid design, and a standalone storage design. And then when it comes to the portfolio analysis, that is more of our market level analysis. And so, oftentimes we're working with organizations that have a national footprint, and, we're helping them to rank their facilities and to help prioritize, where to invest their financial resources first when it comes to clean energy.
Yeah, where to put the solar and the battery, solar only or solar plus battery or battery only, because they have warehouses or retail outlets or data centers across, probably 10 different states and different rates and different solar resource and all of that to optimize
Exactly
that.
right. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. And do you do that, I guess, manually, but also at the same time using your own your own software tools is probably
We're
mostly with
certainly leveraging Energy Toolbase's developer.
so yeah,
And again, it's all of our engagements are supported by our utility rates team. And
yeah.
so they're some of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to rates in the entire
Right.
nation. And so they're helping to do all the research. We're
But
looking
it's
into.
such a, I mean, I have a industrial engineering background, so it's such a optimization exercise to run that multivariable um, math problem essentially with so many different inputs across so many different locations. That's that must be quite the intellectual exercise each engagement. And
Yeah,
then
oftentimes what's happening is we establish a project archetype that we can
yeah,
apply, with so we're kind of grouping by a certain facility type, and then we're able to use that as a benchmark within each territory to
that
analyze.
makes that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. I assume you also have a nice ecosystem of EPC partners who use this tool alongside you guys as the project owners that will own and build that asset at the very least, and maybe own and operate it as well. And then you mentioned your ability to underwrite the production guarantee on those. And you got to have full trust into the EPC teams that are doing the job on the ground. So there's some really complex relationships there. Can you talk a little bit about how that satisfies the customers' I guess anxiety and and all that.
Well, there's certainly commissioning and diligence that goes into making sure the installation is done properly. And
Yeah.
then by all means, we
And
are
you guys have a team that does that from Energy Toolbase's side to do the guarantee. Like you're not
correct.
going to guarantee a project without doing that, I assume, correct?
Correct. Yes, we're working hand in hand with the installer to make sure that the installation is done
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah.
And then, there's been a lot of, we are hardware agnostic when it comes to, Acumen EMS, but, we found that, as we establish these partnerships, we're with we're in bed with them for the life of the system, right? So it's, we're very, uh, we do a lot of um, diligence on our
Right.
end, when it
Yeah.
comes to field testing and, making sure that there's going to be proper amount of communication and there won't be any issues there.
So what are some of the like key considerations that go into optimizing the economics of a commercial solar plus storage project? Should we just go through those elements now? Maybe also as we do that or afterwards, you can dive into a case study and show us a working sample.
Happy to do so. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's as you can imagine, there are, a number of considerations that go into right sizing a solar system. But,
yeah,
typically, once you get into it and you start peeling back the layers of the onion on a project, you usually find that there's, one or two things that you can target or that that helps establish a threshold for the project size. So it's, whether it's a space constraint, where you've got, X amount of footprint to work with, and you can only fit so much capacity in that footprint, or say a billing constraint where it's, let's say you were able to offset 100% of your energy, that sets your max system size. But, it can also be a function of the, local net metering cap or a utility and connection cap. Um, or also being influenced by local incentives and demand grid service programs and things like that.
yeah.
So these are all things that our team takes into account when we're walking through these engagements. Perfect. So this is an example of our site optimization deliverable. And so again, you want to think of this as a comparative analysis because what we're doing is we're showing you really three designs: a standalone storage design, a hybrid design, and a PV only design. And so here, the summary page, it's a nice layout of the key financial metrics. You can easily compare the payback period, the internal rate of return, net present value, and the difference in CapEx and annual savings. And then
Wow.
for each, yeah, and then for each one of these runs, we've got, we can expand. Obviously, you could download this as a PDF and have a hard copy if you like. But for each one of these, we then go into fine detail in terms of, hey, well, we can just walk through each one of these. Let me actually jump over to the hybrid design here. Again, this is this is a completely white labeled service. You can see our logo there, but to whatever extent you'd like us behind the scenes or in front of the scenes, we're happy to play that role. And so we could be happy
So that
to.
could be the brand of a EPC company there instead of Energy
Exactly
Toolbase.
right. Exactly
Got
right. We
it. Yes.
found that it's about 50-50. Some people like to have us they just want to see their logo. Other people kind of like the idea of co-branding and leaning on our expertise as well. So
It's
uh,
nice.
either way, we're happy. Again, a lot of these, if you're familiar with Energy Toolbase, a lot of these charting components, a lot of these graphs are going to look familiar. This is just a template that we designed for the enterprise services team. It's a little customized, has a little more information. Um, and yeah, pretty much, as we've got the nice summary here, again, of the key financial details, system sizes, um, usage profile. So we're giving you a sense of, a snapshot of your tariff information, cost by month, kind of giving you a sense of what, a feel for your usage profile from an example, a sample month.
I'm going to pause you for a second, Justin. I have one curious question here.
Yeah.
How many like EPC partners in your ecosystem are using this, or I mean, if you could share using the traditional Energy Toolbase SaaS products, software products that's been around for a decade, and also how many are starting to use this enterprise services teams support from you guys, and also curious how many are then selling your production guarantee along with all of these services to their end customers.
Yeah, great question. So we have about 2,400 active accounts. So not all necessarily EPCs, but to give you a sense.
Mostly EPCs and developers, maybe. Uh,
Mhm.
who else would that? I guess asset
Financiers, yeah.
financiers. Yeah,
And this is a relatively new division, yeah, within
mm,
Energy Toolbase. We've got the clients that we have had. It's obviously a represents a fraction of our user base, but
sure.
the clients we have engaged with have become repeat clients, and what we're finding is that some of these clients are actually looking to, they just want to maximize the amount of face time they have with their clients and kind of offload the burden of this more what would you call it? Yeah, tedious tedious work to our team. So kind of
Yeah,
filling it as a part of their process entirely.
yeah.
Um, so it's
And then how many are using the production guarantee? Is that a newish service, or is that something you guys have been doing for a while? Because that's where the real value is, if I'm seeing it.
yeah, and so when it comes to our storage systems, we always provide a production guarantee. So that
Right.
just comes by default. So just kind of continuing walking through this, obviously we're recreating the utility bill. Before we get started, what we're doing is we're, making sure that you're on the most favorable rate schedule pre-solar and are in fact eligible to be on the rate schedule you're currently on. So we're checking those things, but obviously as we're going through the design, we're looking at opportunities to do rate switches to maximize energy savings. And so here again, our one of our core tenets as a company is transparency. So you can see, very detailed, very transparent when it comes to how your, where your chargers are coming from and where your expenses are. And then obviously here it's, you've got the utility bill before, the utility bill after, and a nice little breakdown of, where exactly did the savings come from? How much is attributed to solar? How much is attributed to the battery? Again, a nice little snapshot of the savings breakdown here. Again, just kind of a month to month type of visualization of that.
And these services that you're offering as part of the enterprise service team, is that an ongoing engagement for an EPC company or an end user or both, one or the other or both? And or is that a like a 2 month engagement during the like while the project is being built, while the asset is being built, and then does it end? And then is there a monitoring component to like an ongoing, okay, this is what we had predicted, this is what we guaranteed, and then this is what happened in year one, year two, three, four, five, and so on. Can you talk a little bit about that too?
Yeah, sure. So the when it comes to these engagements, typically it's the way it works is we'll have somebody reach out to us and say, hey, we'd like to partner with you on this project. We essentially issue an intake form and then take that back, digest it as a team, memorialize our understanding of the project with the client before we jump into it, take an initial pass at it, and then hold a design review meeting where we go over our initial findings and give the client the ability to make any adjustments or any edits that they would like to see. And then we issue out our final deliverable, and that usually concludes the scope of the enterprise services engagement. Now, that said, we are,
How long
sometimes
does that take from start to finish usually?
5 business days on
Wow,
average.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Got
Obviously some of it depends on the availability of the client to make that design review meeting, but
sure.
it's yeah, 5 business days is
Got it,
our
got it.
stated turnaround.
And then once the project is up and running, is there a post go live date component to any services that you provide?
When you say post go live date, can you
Yeah,
elaborate?
like once the project is up and running, is there a annual review or assessment that you connect with the EPC and or the end user on various
Yeah,
aspects?
yeah, great question. So we don't have a formal annual check-in per se, but that's
Yeah,
where our monitoring system comes into play.
right.
Because the monitoring system is going to be there to uh, provide any sort of alerts as to systems being offline or any kind of issue there,
Yeah,
and then also provide the visibility into again the health of the investment at any given instant, where you can jump in and view
mhm,
the status of the system and
yeah.
see how it's been performing from an economic standpoint.
It's just a hunch, and I might be totally wrong, but it might be worthwhile to offer a relatively low priced check-in meeting service on an annual basis or maybe every 6 months with the clients, just so they get to touch base with you guys and also talk to an expert in terms of like looking at their monitoring system rather than looking at it alone in their own silo, not really, you know, knowing every detail because they do that maybe once or twice a year. But if they do it with you guys on a Zoom call and you guys comment, it can help with their ongoing education as well as some recurring revenue for you and staying in touch with them, hearing their feedback for additional product ideas. Just a thought for John and Adam and team. Uh, you know,
No, absolutely. And you're right. It's different you have different levels of interest there, post installation. And so it's depending on who you're working with, if oftentimes CFOs really keen on
sure.
and diligent in terms of
Yeah,
keeping
sure.
tabs on the system versus,
Makes
say
sense.
perhaps a house of worship or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, please continue. I didn't want to. cut you off there.
Sure. So again, it's just, a very detailed and thorough assessment of both technologies. The PV system, we'll get to the ESS system here in a second. Again, we are, doing this for soup to nuts. So we are also putting together the layouts, again, based off of your guidance. We'll ask where the prospective solar locations are, if any. But then, obviously it's, we're following the International Fire Code PV installation guidelines. So we are, well aware of the edge roof offsets, the access pathways, and certainly taking into account, as you can see here, the screening around the rooftop equipment here. So the shading, we're taking that into account. But just give you a sense of the type of quality when it comes to our layouts and the thought that goes into our designs. Obviously here being mindful of the bioswale. And then moving on, again, the ESS system, very detailed, down to how many times a year the storage system is cycling, breakdowns in terms of, the energy output and demand savings from PV and ESS. And then, of course, the incentives and the rebates that have been factored into to the project.
No.
And again, here, you can see this is, a very straightforward cash flow table where, again, identifying all of the key inputs, your utility escalation rate, discount rate, all of these things, these are things that, our client can provide input on as well. So if they wanted to see something different, by all means. Yeah, this is really the other piece of it, in terms of this template that makes it unique is this appendix section, where again, we are detailing every little bit of this and, including notes, not just, it's not just the key values, but also the notes that went into the design in terms of, was there any sort of implications from NEMCAP or, the rate tariff notes that you can see here. And so, if you needed to, it's to help address, again, full transparency. We don't want this to be, a black box like, oftentimes happens. So, and then in addition to that, lastly, we've got the, glossary of terms. It's always nice to know you're speaking the same language, and a lot of these, can be helpful when you're speaking with the end user and those clients. So, that is it in a nutshell.
That concludes our demo of the new enterprise services. And thank you for that, Justin. And thank you for this wealth of information and the depth you provided around the new enterprise services team that has been formed to extend those VIP services to all ETB clients out there. And I look forward to doing more solar conversations with you in the future, maybe diving into more of the economic value, monitoring the energy controls, and maybe how to model demand response and similar types of topics that are all relevant.
That sounds great.
These types of solutions.
You bet.
Thank you, Justin, and talk to you soon.
Thanks, Kerim.